works. This is 2 experiments. The first experiment is filming, and the second experiment is doing Stella Parks's homemade brownie mix with no sugar and gluten-free and no dairy. The no dairy is actually pretty much integral to the recipe anyway. It just means skipping out the malted milk powder, which is a shame because I love it, but if you can't have dairy, that's out. The other replacements are the flour, the all-purpose flour for hazelnuts, hazelnut flour, which is actually got the idea from Stella's book. Her other brownie recipe has a gluten-free option which has hazelnut flour in it. And the final solution is, final substitution, sorry, is this is like a Erythritol Stevia mix, which is new to me, and says it can be replaced 1-to-1 with sugar. So we're going to put that to the test. I'm not sure if that will work, but gotta try somewhere, right? So the first thing that I actually did already is the recipe calls for powdered sugar, and the Erythritol Stevia is not powdered. It's kind of granulated like regular sugar. So I put it in the blender, blitzed it for 2 minutes on high, and it's come out pretty powdery, like you'd hope from powdered sugar or from icing sugar, as we'd call it. So that's already done, but you would probably have to do that step, assuming this works at all. Right, and I've also weighed out the other ingredients here. So I've got my hazelnuts. These are whole hazelnuts. I'm going to blitz them in the blender to make ground hazelnuts, hazelnut flour. I've got my cocoa powder here. I've got my dark chocolate, which needs to be chopped up, which I'll do in a moment. And I have my salt, which is very important. I used to be of the opinion that salt had no place in baked goods, but I was wrong, and I have learned my lesson, and I know better now. Okay, so first thing we're going to do is add the hazelnuts, because they need to be blended as well, and it will give the sugar another chance to blend up. So this is going to get loud, for which I apologize. So the blender I'm using is my Ninja blender, which I got last year and has served me really well for pretty much everything. Even things that should, strictly speaking, take a food processor. So yeah, your mileage may vary. I think the official recipe calls for a food processor, but I like this and it works for me. Also, I have the recipe on my laptop just to, you know, check in case I go horribly wrong. So yeah, excuse me while this gets loud, and while this gets loud, I'm gonna chop up some chocolate. So be right back, hopefully. All right, so that's 2 minutes gone, and there you go. The combo looks like that, with the flour, well, the hazelnuts all ground up, and the sugar. You can see like through the sides and stuff. There's no like big bits of hazelnut. Should all be good. Just gonna like zhuzh it with this. Make sure there's none stuck anywhere. Not that I can see. Great. Okay, and while I was doing that, I was chopping up the chocolate. So this is like lindt 70% dark chocolate, because no milk and also no soy. So for anyone who is allergic to soy lecithin or soy in general, which is what soy lecithin is made of, this uses sunflower lecithin instead. And so that's a big, if you need to be low FODMAP diet, then this is a good chocolate for things, because say no milk, no soy. So we're going to add this in to the blender. So yeah, having chopped it is going to be blended as well, so it doesn't matter too much how finely chopped it is, but the more chopping you do in advance, the better it works in the blender, I think. So get as much of that good chocolate in there as possible. So that's in, and your other dry ingredient, there are cocoa powder, any cocoa powder with no sugar or milk or anything like that is fine for this. And of course, if you're not worried about either sugar or milk, then it can be anything. But for this purposes, this is what we've got. We've also got a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So there we go. I've got my fancy salt. Well, fancy-ish salt. Sea salt anyway. Interestingly, I learned recently that kosher salt in the US is different because it doesn't have iodine in it. But in the UK, almost none of our salt has iodine in it. So you're fine to use any salt from that point of view, but kosher salt is often bigger flakes. So sea salt is probably closer if you're doing a volumetric measurement. If you're doing a weight measurement, it doesn't matter. Either's fine. So this is actually a 1/2 teaspoon measure, but so yeah, half a teaspoon measure, roughly. A little bit of extra, not gonna hurt anybody. Right, and you can also put espresso powder in this, but I do not because I don't like it. Even the slightest coffee flavor, I taste it and I don't like it. So this is gonna go on for another 2 minutes, and so it's gonna get loud again. And oh, just also to say that the oven is on and preheating through all of this, so that is good. Right, have I missed anything? No, cool. Alright, to say that was on high for 2 minutes, so as you can see, it's all kind of ground to the bottom down in there, and there's actually, you can see a little bit of the sugar and flour still around the edge, so sugar and hazelnut, sorry, still around the edge, so I'm gonna just make sure that kind of gets mashed up in there with everything else. So we've got one more bit of blending to do. The recipe is mostly blending, to be fair, before we get on to the next bit. I'm just like shaking the bit in the middle around to try and like get the sugar moving. Just gonna throw a metal spoon just to, there we go, get that chocolate mix out from around where it's stuck at the bottom. You can actually see it's starting to go a little bit, it's all kind of starting to stick together a little bit, so you need to be a bit careful. The next bit, right. Now I don't normally have to do this, but I did put my coconut oil in the fridge because it's very smushy today. Not totally sure, well, I guess I am totally sure why that is. It's a little warmer in this kitchen than it normally is. In the UK, you don't normally have a problem with coconut oil being too wet. This might be too wet still, but it is solid, mostly. So we're gonna give it a go. All right, so coconut oil is in there. And lid goes back on, and this time we're not going to do it for quite as long. Let's see, where are you going? No. I'm going to put it back on there. Right. I see what's happened. I have to cut this bit. What had happened is that when I took this bit in the middle out to move things around, it's got a little bit, it's not, something's gone underneath it, so there we go. Nope. Yes, there we are. Go back on. And I'm just going to pulse this a couple of times. There we go. Until it looks like it's all kind of coming together. Now, because it's warm in here today, it had, and the coconut was a little melty. You can see it's kind of gone a bit sticky, which is fine in this case because we're going to put it straight into a bowl and make it up straight away. But if you were hoping to use it as a kind of shelf-stable brownie mix like the original recipe is for, this is not going to do you very good. So don't know if that's a combination of the hazelnuts as well, because it has done this to me before, or if it's just that I've got the heating on and we made dinner earlier in here, so it's a little warmer than normal. So that goes over there. And then all of this good stuff comes out of the blender, straight into a bowl. Oh, and I'm going to give it a little mix again because some of this around the bottom has not incorporated very well because it got stuck down there. That's what we were trying to fix earlier, but didn't quite manage to get it fully out. So, also just a little thing about the stevia and erythritol. Erythritol is a sugar alcohol, naturally produced sugar alcohol that tastes sweet but has no no actual sugar, no carbs, basically, and or functionally no carbs, and I've used it a couple of times in recipes for a diabetic friend of mine. It has a slightly cooling sensation, which is a little odd. It's a little bit like mint, but which I don't normally like, but it doesn't actually have any mint flavour, just mint, the cooling thing, so that makes it okay. And stevia, I've tried stevia drops before and they were not good. Do not recommend, even though that is something that my low FODMAP leading friends can have, whereas the erythritol, because it is an alcohol, because it is an alcohol, you can't actually have that, or you shouldn't be careful about it on a low FODMAP diet. It is easier to digest than any of the other sugar alcohols, I understand, but haven't tried it yet. I think my next big hope for low FODMAP sweeteners is a monk fruit one, but it's quite expensive and quite difficult to get hold of and often cut with erythritol. So yeah, that's not so good. Just smushing up a little bit of sugar that's got caught up in the bottom of that. There we go. Okay, so right, that's what we're looking like at the moment. Okay, so as you can see, you could not use this as a shelf-stable brownie mix. Now, the next thing that needs to go in is 2 eggs, and they need to come out of the fridge, which is always something I forget about usually, because in this country we don't put eggs in the fridge usually, not very often anyway. So, but I did remember to put these in the fridge today. So, 2 large eggs. So yeah, this is not a vegan recipe. This is a dairy-free recipe, and as I say, sugar-free and gluten-free, and almost eggshell-free. There we go, now eggshell-free recipe. So I'll do one and start to mix it in. This will help. You see those are like a couple of little bits of sugar that haven't properly incorporated. This will be where I can help with that. Just mixing it all together. And let me just check something on the laptop over here. It is just 2 of these, and vanilla, and 2 ounces of water. Cool. Just say with a flexible spatula, but the mixture is thick enough that I like to use a spoon. Right, so it's 1 egg, 2 eggs, and just a moment there'll be a 1/4 cup of water. Obviously you should weigh everything because cup measurements are confusing and I don't like them. For anything that's not liquid, but water is fine. You can do that with a cup because the volumetric measurements make sense for that. And I guess tiny things, you know, teaspoons and stuff, it's probably not so bad. But when you're looking at a whole cup of something, then really doesn't make sense to have it be a dry stuff. So sorry, that was a weird little pattern. Right, now I might also use I might also use a little bit of extra water in this because one of the things with fake sugar is that it can be quite drying and can absorb a lot of water. So let's see what this looks like. I've made this once before using real sugar, so hopefully I'll have a rough idea. So I'm also going to weigh the water just because, you know, makes me happy. So it's 2 ounces or a quarter cup. 1 ounce. That comes into slightly, just like 1/8 of an ounce under 2. So let's mix that in next. There. Looks a bit weird. Oh yeah, you can't see. There we go. Looks a bit weird though. Actually, if I come over there, bring these off, then you can see. Just while the water is incorporating here. That's better. That is more like what I was expecting the texture to look like, so that is good. Maybe I won't need to take much extra, just a splash extra water maybe. But vanilla first, so how much vanilla are we supposed to do? And then do a little extra because it smells great. 1.5 teaspoons. So, here we go. Where is the tab? There we are. Sorry, this is new vanilla. Vanilla is very important, even in chocolate things. Again, a bit like salt, you might be like, why would you put vanilla and salt in chocolate goods? But it makes a difference. It like has extra depth of flavor, I think. And you can also, I've done this before with vanilla powder. If you are doing it as a shelf-stable mix, then yeah, you can use powder to do that earlier in the process rather than having to add it with the eggs afterward. So this is a 1.5 teaspoons. There we go. Adding all that in. And mixing that around. It smells like a brownie. Now, it might just be all the chocolate, I don't know. But erythritol often takes slightly less time to bake as well, so the baking time is going to be a bit experimental. I'll let you know exactly what happens when it's done. And okay, yes, I have it all over my hands as well, so that's cool. All right, texture wise that's pretty good, so I might not, difficult to say at this stage, but I might not need any extra water after all. It tastes pretty good. No weird aftertaste. It's always good. Sometimes fake sugars can be a bit weird like that, but yeah, tentatively optimistic about it so far. Okay, so am I going to put in a tiny splash extra water just to be a little on the safe side because you really, if brownies are going to be anything, you want it to be a little bit wetter. You don't, or at least I do, you want chewy brownies, you want gooey brownies, you don't want, yeah, don't want anything too, anything too cakey. And some people, that's their jam, and this is probably not going to be for you guys, but yeah. So I made this recipe before with all the substitutions except for the stevia and erythritol. So this is a new, that's the part that's new to me and potentially new to you guys. So I'll let you know. So we'll, right, next step then is, we're discovering this together. Right, next step is adding this glorious chocolatey smoosh. Here we go. Oop, very, almost threw it all over the counter. Don't throw it all over the counter. It's a waste apart from anything else. We're going to put it in this 8x8 silicone thing lined with parchment paper, baking paper, greaseproof paper, whatever you want to call it. And our brownie is very wet. Very brownie-ish texture at this stage, which is always good. Last time I made sugar-free brownies, they did not have this texture. It was less good. And they started to fall apart quite a lot. So here we go. I am hopeful about this, otherwise it's a big waste of brownie mix, but you know, can't make an omelette without cracking eggs. And can't make new and exciting sugar-free baked goods without potentially risking a couple of wasted pans of brownie mix. I'd say the worst one of these I did was when I was trying to reach my ultimate goal, my white whale, as it were, of a sugar-free, low FODMAP, nut-free, dairy-free, ideally fully vegan cookie recipe, because I have a very good nut-free, low FODMAP vegan cookie recipe, but have not been able to find a sugar substitute that works for everybody. So that one is still out there. As I say, I have hopes for this monk fruit one, if I can find a version where they don't cut it with the erythritol or anything else. There we go. All right, get the last of that off the spoon. There we go. And the oven is heated to, what is the oven heated to? About 180, give or take. We're also going to put the tray on a tray, the thingy on a tray, just to help it cook a little bit, to make sure it doesn't go everywhere and nothing weird happens. Okay. And we are in. Alright, last told you I would check back in when it was done, so I ended up leaving it in for 27 minutes, pretty much. And yeah, this is what it looks like now. It's still pretty soft, so we'll see. What I'm going to do is, I didn't want to cook it too much, just so, yeah, Sue say, brownies are better squishy. And I'm going to leave it to cool for a little bit in the pan and then try and take it out. And I will update you again with the results. I know I told you I took it out. Oh, no, where are we? That's better, isn't it? Is that better? Oh. There we go. Yeah, there we go. Alright, so I know I told you I took it out after 27 minutes in the end. Actually, I ended up putting it back in. So I'd recommend going a full 35 at least and then see how it goes. Mine ended up being a bit longer, but I also had, because I'd taken it out and put it back in again and all that kind of jazz. So try it. Use your trusty stick to try and get a sense of whether when it's moved from just still really gooey and sticky to something a bit more solid. All right, so what it looks like now, there we go. and we're going to take it out of there, put it on the chopping board. So what we do is we've got the baking paper, taken it off them. Oopsie, and it's cracked a little bit, so don't do that. Okay, it's quite hard around the edges. There we go. Take out that one first. It's quite crumbly, as you see. Tastes pretty good though, as these things go. It looks very dark, like it's burnt, but it's not. What we're going to do. Fine. I was going to measure it, but I'm not going to measure it. I'm just going to guesstimate. There we go. Oops. Okay, so the top is kind of coming off a little bit, which is not great. There we go. I guess it's kind of brownie-like, so yeah, that's something. We're gonna, because it's an 8 by 8, we're gonna cut it 4 and 4. As you can see, it's still pretty gooey and kind of sticking to the thing. That's probably should have left it to cool a little bit more, but it is late and I wanted to go to bed, so this is what we're getting. All right. Yeah, there's going to be lots left on this bench scraper. Okay. And the reason I'm doing this now is because I have a relative and I wanted to send them some, they can't have carbs or dairy, so hence this investigation of a recipe. Now, let's look at one of these, see what it looks like inside. Oh, there you are, there you go. So you can see it's kind of still sticky. You can see, so that this is, the top is coming off. It's really tasty actually. I'm pretty freaking happy with that.